Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. My number 2 is a game called Mars War Logs on the Xbox 360. It's 3 or 4 months old. Originally came out on the PC, and it's just hitting Xbox Live Arcade. I don't know for definite if it's on PSN or not. Have you heard about it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I've heard about something like this.
Yeah, it's a third-person. I'd say it's an action RPG, but it's not really. It's quite the RPG. If you're the kind of person who's really fed up of this whole influx of action RPGs, where the action is sort of 50% of the pie, this is much more old school. It's much more reminiscent of The Witcher. That was an action RPG too, but this is a lot. The action has a lot less to do with it. It's all about crafting and scavenging and skill points and perks and conversation trees and morality and all that stuff. It's a lot more of an involved RPG. It's really imperfect, but I couldn't help thinking of State of Decay.
Okay.
Primarily because, incidentally, it looks kind of like State of Decay. I don't know if they were made on a similar engine, but it looks very similar. But because this is the environments are smaller, there are none of the technical hiccups that State of Decay has. There's none of the frame rate issues or just the random sort of bugs that are in State of Decay. This is a much slicker game. But in the same way, like you said, when you were playing it, that this is going to be some people's favourite game ever. I felt like that playing this. It's not my favourite game ever, but I know people who are going to fall absolutely madly in love with it. But like I said, it's imperfect. One thing I'll say about it, it's one of the most dead serious games I've played in a long time. There is no humour. It opens with an attempted rape in a prison. The only thing that's wrong with that is that the voice acting's so fucked, and the NPCs aren't particularly sophisticated. That it kind of, it's tough to sort of. They want it to be a really hard hitting bit, and it's not quite. It's set on Mars, obviously. It's Mars that's sort of a little bit Total Recall. It's a little bit Fallout 3, I should say, and it's a little bit Alien 3. And also primarily, I think that's because there's so many sort of cockneys walking around. There's nothing original about it. It starts out you're in a prisoner of war camp, and the chapter 1 is you breaking out, and then the rest. There's only 3 chapters, but the rest of the game is set outside the prison, and it's just standard RPG stuff. You've done it all before, but it's genuinely branching. So there's all sorts of decisions that you make that genuinely. It's one of those. Halfway through, I sat back and I thought, wow, so much work has gone into making sure that all of these things build to a certain conclusion. And all of these, there's one very, very finite sort of decision that you have to make, which will completely skew the story about sort of towards the back end of the game, which you can save before if you want to avoid it. But it's really, it's they haven't skimped on any of that stuff. It's genuinely branching stuff that you ignore doing. And can have repercussions. It's also reminded me a little bit of Infamous, because the currency in the game, which is also health, is a serum. Yeah, serum. And it's quite scarce, so you can be either good or bad. When you've finished having a fight with someone, you can kneel down and sort of extract serum from them, and that kills them, or you can leave them alone. And obviously, doing one or the other affects merchant prices and interactions with other people and stuff like that. It is humorless and dead serious, but in some cases it's quite effective. I mean, it opens with this voiceover about how miserable war is, and it's actually really quite evocative and well done. It's very narrow. There's lots of NPCs forming invisible walls, and they never speak to you. So you're always blocked off. It's not. It feels like it should be open, and it's not. You're always. I mean, it is open. You are free to do everything in your own way, but it's a lot of corridors, even when they shouldn't really feel like corridors. It's a real trial by fire with regards to the combat, because it demands that you learn it quite quickly, and there are times when it says maybe you don't want to go this way because you might want to level up your combat first, but if you go that way, whenever you're in combat, you can't until you leave your combat stance, you can't open doors, you can't run away, you have to have the fight, so you have to lose loads of fights and then keep going out of the door. It's just a fault with the game. It's not original. But I've really liked it, and the seriousness was kind of refreshing. There are minor technical difficulties. I mean, there's the attack reaction when you get hit by someone. The reaction animation is quite long-winded. So if there's a crowd spamming you, you can just stand there going. As you level up, that happens less and less. I mean, there's moves that sort of get faster and stuff. It's all about leveling up. It's so involved, and so much of a RPG fans are going to love it. If you think that sort of Mass Effect's a fucking action game, and you love the RPG elements, this is, I wouldn't say hardcore because it is quite accessible. But yeah, I really liked it. There's a weird. The thing that's weird about it is that the character names seem to be like the woman who helps you and sort of gives you a place to hide, and sort of her name's Charity, and the kid you've got underneath your wing who you show it, you sort of, his name's Innocence, and I'm just like, I don't know why they did this. Calling all these characters by who they are seemed a bit weird. It's imperfect, but it's really surprisingly interesting. It takes itself very seriously. It's an interesting enough story, and yeah, it's made by a development team called Spiders. Have you heard of them?
No, not at all.
This might be wrong, but I think it's 5 people. And if that's the case, it's incredible. There's a trial available on Xbox Live. I think people should have a look at it. I don't know whether they'll start you at the beginning or not, but you should check it out. It's RPG fans, especially if you're the kind of person who thinks that all the other stuff just polluted RPGs, because it is all about sort of skill trees and all about the conversation, managing your morality and stuff like that, looting, crafting, really involved crafting system. I really liked it. It's not naturally the kind of game I'd gravitate towards, but yeah, it's pretty damn good, I think.
That does sound cool. It sounds very cool, very interesting.
I also like the delivery. I love this delivery. It's about 10 hours long. Perfect. That's what I want. All games to be 1,200 Microsoft points and be £10. That's what I want. 10 hours long. It's like part of me's done with 4. I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, but this seems like the perfect. There's so little fucking about. Here's the game. It's 10 hours long. There you go. There's very little dicking around. Yeah, I think it's worth a look at the trial at the very least.
Mars War Logs, eh?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the title.
Yeah, weird title. But yeah, I might have a look see if there's a demo on PC as well.
I'm sure there will be. I think it's actually part of this. I don't know if the Steam sale's even on anymore.
No, it's finished now.
Okay.
I think it was, yeah, but I didn't know what it was, so I didn't have a look. That sounds cool.
It's definitely more interesting. At first, I wasn't sure, but as it went on, I was like, "Wow, this is actually." It's what you can dislike things about it, but you have no doubt that the people making it, that's the game they wanted to make.
Yeah, sure.
So it's tough not to admire that. Yeah, it's worth. Find the trial if you can.